Hi everyone, this is a little video that I'm making on colour mixing. It's sort of the basics of colour mixing. It can get very complicated, so I'm going to try and keep it simple as possible. Basically we have 3 primary colours, which are red, yellow and blue, and in theory those 3 colours will make up all the other colours that you could possibly want to use. In practice it doesn't quite work, because unless you have the right red with the right blue, you won't get purple, you'll get brown. But the colours that I'm working with in this are cadmium yellow, French ultramarine blue, cadmium red, and my cheat is the alizarin crimson to make the purple. So I've mixed up my colours. This is my SketchUp of the colour wheel. So you can see I've got blue, red and yellow, which are the primaries, and then in between those we've got green, purple and orange, which are the secondary colours. I'm just going to steady my camera because it seems to be wobbling around all over the place. So I'm going to start off by, there are principally 4 components to colour. The first is hue, and that is the colour that you're using, so blue, red, yellow, green, whatever. The second is chroma, which is the intensity of that colour. The third is value, which is how light or dark that colour is. So that's its tone. And the fourth one is temperature, which is slightly different to the other 2. So that's whether it's a warm or a cold colour. So if we start with the first one, which is hue, I'll put that there and I'll do. So it's about intensity. So if I put my blue here, in watercolour it pretty much reflects to how much pigment is in the paint. So that's the colour blue. This is, I'll do another one just to give you an illustration, which I didn't think to do, but I will do it. See if I've got, this is, hopefully it will look a different colour when it's on there. I don't know whether that will. Let me just get, I'm just going to get a different tube of paint. Hang on. This is Cobalt Blue. So this is similar, but it's not the same. It's not the same as French ultramarine. It's a very slightly lighter blue. Can you see? But they're both blue. So the hue is both blue. So the chroma of that blue will depend on how much water I put with it. So if I take some of the original blue, which is that one there, and I put it in another container, and then I add more water to it, mix it up, dry off my brush so I've got the clean colour, and then I put that in, you can see it's much less intense. So that's the chroma. The chroma of the top one is more intense than the chroma of the one next to it. And what's interesting about chroma is around the edges of the colour wheel, I will put the other primaries in. So we've got yellow down here. Around the edges of the colour wheel, the chroma is at its most intense. Generally with watercolours, they're more intense, the more pigment that they've got in them. So that's our yellow there. I'm also going to take some yellow and pop it in there to mix up an orange in a minute, and to mix up the green. And then we've got red, and I'm going to put the cadmium red in here. Again, if I put the alizarin crimson next to it, you can see that alizarin crimson is quite a different colour red. So they're both reds. So they're both the hue red, but they're different colours within that red. So the colours on the edge of the colour wheel have the most intensity, so the most chroma. As they come towards the centre of the colour wheel, they become lighter and turn to grey. And we can lighten and darken our colours either by adding black, or as in watercolour we use the white of the paper, or we can actually use a colour from the opposite side of the colour wheel. So for blue, blue's complementary is orange. So if I take some yellow and I add a bit of red to it, we can make orange. So here we go, we've got orange. So this is at its purest on the edge. And if we lighten that, we could take it all the way to the centre. You can do this at home, trying to make them lighter as they go in. There we are. So that is just making it lighter by putting more water with it. If you're working with acrylics, you would add white, or oil paint, you would add white. And then the green, I'm going to mix a bit of blue with the yellow to get a green. Pop that in there. And for the purple, I'm going to use my cheat, which is the alizarin crimson with a bit of the blue, so that you get a purple. And I'll put these in these little boxes around the outside so you can see them. So that's my cheat there, because if I use this red, it would just turn brown. So we've got that and blue there to make purple. We'll just use a bit more intense blue. We've got the lighter red, and the yellow to make the orange. And we've got the blue and the yellow to make the green. So we've got the most intense colours around the outside of the colour wheel, and then we've got what's called the ascending colours, which are the warm colours. So the warm colours come forward So if you want something to come forward, if you want it to be seen first in the painting, or you want it to be noticed, you put it in a bright colour, in a warm colour. So we're looking at reds, yellows. So a warm colour has more yellow. A cool colour has more blue. So these are the cool colours coming down here, so into the lemons and round to the purples, and then when you get to the other side of purple, these are the warm colours. So the cool colours go back, so you would use them for landscapes, for mountains, things like that. The warm colours come forward. The interesting thing about colour temperature is, whereas the other three factors of colour, hue, chroma and value, are particular to each variety of colour that you've got, temperature is relative. It depends on what it's next to. So if I take a bit of alizarin crimson here and I put it next to cadmium red, the cadmium red looks warmer because it's got more yellow in it than the alizarin crimson. If I take the same alizarin crimson and put it next to blue, the alizarin now looks warmer than the blue. So it's relative. A colour's temperature is relative to what colour it's next to. So that's important to note about colour. The other thing that's important to note is that if you want to neutralise a colour, because quite often we don't, we don't use as intense colours in nature as we get on the outside of our colour wheel. To neutralise that colour, you can add a bit of its complement. So if I take that colour green and then I add a tiny bit of red, you only put a tiny bit in. Put too much red in there. It starts to neutralise the green. So it starts to change the colour, and as you come towards this end, you gradually get, if I do sort of the other side, that's given me, I've got quite a warm green there because I've used cadmium red and alizarin. If I was to use a darker green, but as it's coming towards, as they go across the colour wheel, it becomes more neutralised, and ideally when you reach the centre you should have a sort of mid-tone value, and then as you go up this side it becomes more green. So you can sort of get the idea of what I'm doing here. I'm going from green, from the intense green there, through the lesser intense green, over the middle of the colour wheel to where we start to come out. And it's going towards the red. I've actually used quite a warm red there, but that's what, so to neutralise or dull a colour, add a little of its complement. So the colour that is across the colour wheel from it. Okay. So you can have a go at making your own colour wheel if you want. Quite a nice exercise, which is what we did in class, was to take a load of different fruit and vegetables and put them in order of the colour wheel. It's quite a challenge actually, because sometimes working out which is warmer and which is cooler. So you want your principal blue, red, green, orange, purple, yellow, and then put your other fruits in between and draw yourself a colour wheel. Okay, hope that's helpful.